Hey, I'm Chris Stefanik from The Chris Stefanik Show. Check out this clip about how to live a more joyful life in your everyday life every day. Speaking of discernment, got another question here. I know I'll never be an astronaut, but how do I discover the big thing I'm meant to do? And I know your path there wasn't like, I want to be an astronaut, so that, it was incremental, but how would you answer that?
Well, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do. I think one of my constant prayers is, please God, reveal your will. What do you want me to do? I want to do that. And it wasn't until I started reflecting back on my life that he actually did that. He opened doors for me and presented opportunities that weren't any part of a plan I had, but led to different paths along my life that I chose to take, and they weren't good or bad choices. I mean, I could have chosen other things too, and I'm sure I would have fulfilled his will for me. But, I think he's always, we're praying these things, he's answering them, but we're not cognizant of it at the time.
Right.
And only in reflection do I see it.
Yeah.
To answer the question, I think, and again, I tell this to my children and to young people, we all have talents that are unique, and we know what we're good at and what we're not good at.
Right.
And if you pursue the things you're good at, you're probably going to be happier than if you pursue the things you're not good at. And and so what am I good at? I've decided on reflection, I am eminently trainable. I can be trained to do just about anything. I'm not necessarily going to be great at it, but I'm a good student. I'm a good listener, and if you can explain it to me, I can do it. That's my talent.
I'm making it into my next book. That's profound.
So you got to do a little introspection on what am I good at, pursue that. And it turns out I was pretty good at flying airplanes.
I'm going to quote that. I'm going to quote you on that many times. I'm trainable, teachable. Boy, that sets you up for so much success.
It does. It
Humility sets you up for success. Wow. Now, what you shared when I was first asking about what set you up for success and what you just shared just now, you have this sense of self-worth that comes from deeper things than your achievements.
Yes.
Which also set you up to take risks, because if you fail, you don't lose your very sense of identity. I've worked with a lot of people who have been very successful, wildly successful, and I see a lot of mixed motives. And that's okay, the Lord uses those, like with the apostles. But right before the Last Supper, they're arguing who's greatest between us. Yeah. Their motives were mixed. It was about them and it was about God. It was also about them, but about God. And eventually they Lord, it's all for you.
Yeah.
What was did you have those mixed motives? Like there's a lot of people who's like, I need my dad's approval. I tie my worth to my accomplishments. Was there one of those particular experiences on this road to where you ended up that you were purified of, or could pinpoint and say, that I don't want that. We're going to be intentional against that.
Yeah. Are you talking about just a general choice, a life choice you have to make along the way that is, I mean, good versus bad, or just in general?
To own your own motives.
Yeah.
As you became a general, like things you could look at it yourself. I struggle with this myself, with looking within and saying, okay, that if I wanted to do this show, for instance, for the approval of people, that becomes clear as I start doing it and succeeding at it, and think, oh, that part, Lord, let's root that out of my soul and bring that to confession. And then I become a truer leader.
Yeah.
What were the things you had to root out to be that great leader?
Well, I think ego. In spite of, I think everybody we all have an ego.
Everybody has ego.
And so I learned early on from a leadership perspective. I don't recall ever reading a book on leadership, but I'm a huge student of leadership. And I observed how people led. And you learn a lot from bad leaders, sometimes more than you do from good leaders. I was blessed to always serve under good leaders. But I saw bad leadership, and on occasion from others. And so it was to say, well, how am I going to treat people? It's for me, it's an easy answer. When people ask, what's your key to success as a leader, which is what is valued in the military, which enabled me to continue my career for so long, is I always say it's the golden rule. You treat the people that work for you like you would want to be treated yourself, which doesn't mean you're always, it's all hearts and flowers. Sometimes people need a swift kick in the rear to get back online. And that's what you would want.
I would
that's
want
what you would
honesty.
want, you know,
Yeah.
if you were starting to stray. And so, yeah, it was kind of that development of that approach to people, and which again ties right back to our faith, right? You know,
Yeah, how many people did you have under your direction as a 4-star general?
Well, various jobs, but about 40,000 at one point, you know, in various tentacles of the organization that were ultimately, you know, pulling in the same, working for my command.
Yeah, I get a little overwhelmed with 2 to 3.
Well, you can only lead about a dozen. Coincidentally, that's what the leadership books will tell you, and coincidentally, that's what Christ had,
Isn't
right?
that beautiful?
Yeah, and because those, you can only, you know, be in close contact with about a dozen people and truly evaluate them and mentor them and motivate them. But then you want them to each do that for another dozen, and each of them to do that for another dozen. And if you set the tone right at the top, and that flows down through the organization, man, magical things can happen in any organization.
Well, what qualities would you look for in those dozen that you as a great leader would be raising up?
Well, for one thing, I wanted their ideas, and I wanted them to bring to me things that I don't, to fill in the gaps in my knowledge. And I remember coming into an organization once where
There's that humility thing again.
well, yeah, I mean, if you think you can do it on your own,
Right.
you're going to fail. I think
Yeah.
we need each other, and you know, just because someone is subordinate to you rank-wise doesn't mean they're not smarter than you.
Yes.
and or more have different experiences than you that they can bring to the table. And so I wanted what I valued most was honesty from the people that worked for me. You know, if the emperor doesn't have clothes on, please tell me.
Yes.
You know, don't
Yeah.
send me down the parade. You know,
Yeah.
believing that you know, I've got this figured out when I don't. And you know, it was all about building a team that it was greater than the sum of the parts.
Would be vulnerable, would be honest.
Be honest, yeah.
That's
be
hard
honest.
in a work setting.
Yeah.
That's
And I
really hard
wanted
do.
them to work hard. You know,
Yeah.
I wanted them to have the same ethos I had. That my father had raised in me, that you know, you work hard.
Yeah.
That's what's important. Make the organization better.
Yeah.
It's better when you left than when you arrived, because of your efforts, no matter how small they are.
Yeah.
And I wanted everybody in the organization. I didn't care if you were the janitor working in the building, or you were the top scientist on the staff, or engineer, or whatever. Everybody, I wanted them all to feel like that we could not get the job done without them.
Man, wasn't that great? Listen, if you don't want to be happy, be sure not to subscribe. But if you want a more joyful life, the kind of life that God created you for, the kind of life Jesus promised when he said, I came to give you life to the full, then make sure you hit subscribe and share this channel with everybody you know.